19 of the All the Books Show, recorded at the David A. Howe Public Library, where we talk book news, author news, and literary news. I'm Eric Mickles.
And I'm Nick Gunning.
Nick, there is a harsh and cold wind in the air
That's
today.
true. That's true. Even in my office, it is bitterly cold.
Yes.
So
sounds like the Wolves of Winter.
We're past fall, and
Wait.
we are into
Wolves of Winter is the name of the book, right? Winds of Winter.
Winds of Winter.
Is that's the book that's not out yet? By George R.R. Martin?
Is it? All
right, never
I
mind.
can't tell you. I really don't know. But it's nice to be back. It's been a minute since you and I have sat at our mics here, been on Twitch, done the works, because we had a special interview last week. The week before that, we had to do a Skype thing with the Queen of Halloween.
Right.
And it's just been a couple things that have thrown us off. But here we are.
Traditional.
Back in the prime of our lives, in our own seats, with our own mics and our own headphones.
We've tried a bunch of new different things. It's time to reboot the line, bring it back to what people liked originally.
Yes, let's Force Awakens this bad boy.
Yeah. Or Halloween 2019? 2018.
I'm not up to date on the Halloween.
I got to tell you, I'm glad the topic of today was not done during Halloween.
Yeah.
Because finishing, I'm like, this was a silly Halloween
I
pick.
know, it really was. It really was. Well, Eric's bearing the lead here. We are going to be talking about Stephen King's The Institute.
Yeah.
This is I forget every time, but I feel like this is our 5th year reading a Stephen King at Halloween.
No. I was in Florida when we started.
6th year.
I'm thinking it was 2013, Halloween 2013.
Is that true?
Yes.
That's pretty
The
good.
Shining.
That's a pretty good long haul.
Because I read Dr. Sleep while I was still in Florida.
Yeah.
So that would be 2014.
Yep.
And then when I got back,
Salem's Lot.
was it Salem's Lot was the next? Yeah.
Salem's Lot. And then last year was Dead Zone.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but there's one more, isn't there?
Carrie?
Pet Cemetery.
Pet Cemetery and Carrie?
I think Carrie wasn't our official Halloween book. I think I just read it.
Did I read Pet Cemetery and Carrie and Gwendy's Button Box the same?
We might have. We might have done that. Yeah. There's a sequel to Gwendy's Button Box coming out. It's coming out in November. Not written by Stephen King, just by the co-author, which is interesting.
Maybe I'll enjoy it.
We're going to be talking about The Institute, and as Eric pointed out, it's good that we're doing this post-Halloween because this was not a Halloween book, nor was it enjoyable, spoiler alert. Yeah. So we're gonna get into that in a little bit. But again, Eric, it's a pleasure to see you back.
All Hallows stink.
Yeah.
It was.
Let's do it. Shall we dive into some bookmark?
I mean, I've been here with you. Every time you've recorded, I've still been with you.
Yeah, but this feels
it's not like... Oh, okay.
It's a return to form.
Yeah.
It's a return to form. Bookmark. Would you like to go first? Or would you like me to, my friend? What have we been reading? What's our hot takes?
My hot takes. I read Batman Damned.
Oh, okay. New Black Label DC Comics. When it was first launched, there was some scandal because you saw a fully naked Batman.
Full frontal
nudity Batman, and there was a lot of questions about why, and pretty much it was a why. It was a why question, I think. And so,
for
in later issues, they did a little bit more shadow, so you don't get.
Yeah, no, they've covered it up completely. You can't see anything in the graphic novel.
Sorry, man.
So, I mean, for 80 years, I think their question has been why not.
I guess so. So already this
surprisingly not shaped like a bat.
This graphic novel started with a weird history, and then just continued. And I read the first issue, and I'm just not a fan of Brian Azzarello as a Batman author.
Listen,
so I
forgot. I mean, I think I knew at some point this was Brian Azzarello, who I have not read a single good Batman story since he started. I think I hate anytime he writes any DC character.
I agree.
But I forgot that this was also Lee Bermejo as the artist.
Okay.
And he's the artist on Brian Azzarello. Him and Brian Azzarello did the Joker graphic novel. They did the Lex Luthor graphic novel.
I remember those, but I'm not a fan, so I didn't read them.
I did not like them. The Joker one was a waste of time. It has its fans.
Yeah.
And they are Zack Snyder fans.
I see.
So I did not care for it at all. And Batman Damned was, I don't know. It was basically them doing it. It comes across as just how Alex Ross or other artists will always just put out there just an art book. Yeah. And there's no stories or anything, or if it is, it's like that Shazam book we read, where it's just an excuse to give Alex Ross.
Yeah.
It reads like that, and it's like, well, if he wants to just do an art book, just do it. Don't pair it with a pointless story.
Yeah.
There was nothing to it.
If you want to hear us talk about that Shazam book by Alex Ross, episode 189, where we sit down with author Elliot S. Magan.
But Batman Damned was just an excuse to draw the DC mystical characters.
Right. So this is Batman and Constantine, John Constantine, Hellblazer, right?
I guess if Constantine is more like, I don't know, the Ghost of Christmas Past.
Oh, okay.
All
right. So you didn't like Batman
I did not
Damned.
like Batman
All
Damned.
Right. What else you got?
Okay. So in my X-Men reading, I'm in the all-new era.
Okay.
So this is Extraordinary X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, All New X-Men.
Confusing.
Uncanny Avengers, All New Wolverine, Old Man Logan. That era.
Okay.
So
All
it's
right.
basically, it's called the All New Era. It only lasted for each of these books only got 4 volumes, about 20 issues, so not even 2 years worth. Best set up as being the era where the X-Men are being killed off by the Inhumans, Terrigen, or whatever it's called, Mist.
Right, I remember, yeah.
Uncanny Avengers Volume 4 was the best of the lot that I've read in this week.
Okay.
Lot of cool stuff. The artist in it, whose name escapes me right now, is so good. It's just so colorful and kinetic, and I love it. It is Pepe Larraz.
Okay.
And I just, it's just so, the art's just so delicious.
Interesting.
But
that can make or break a story. It really can. I mean, good art will elevate a bad story, and it will also sink, a good story.
Yeah. Red Skull has Professor Xavier's brain.
Oh.
And is using it to control a bunch of Avengers.
Interesting.
But he can't control Deadpool. Deadpool goes to find the X-Men. Can't find the X-Men, but they left something behind. While getting the crap beat out of him by Rogue, who's being controlled by Red Skull, he pulls out Magneto's helmet and puts it on Rogue, and now she's not controlled. And Red Skull's like, "Oh crap!"
That's pretty cool.
So
That's a cool story.
any big fun superhero action thing like that, and then Rogue is kicking butt, and so I really enjoyed that. The other X books, they were all in the Inhumans versus X-Men storyline. I had no love for this. It was 6 issues long, but nothing happened in it. It's just, I just don't understand. This was definitely, I don't know if this was Marvel's apology for trying to replace the X-Men with the Inhumans during that time or what. But now the whole X-Men Inhumans connection is done.
Okay.
So thank goodness for that. Just not great. Nobody looked good in this. And now Emma Frost is a villain again. So woo. And all the X-Men books that I read were tied into it.
Okay.
So they weren't good either. It was too bad because something like Extraordinary X-Men I liked for the first 2 volumes, and then the next 2 it just fell off. So yeah. I also read Stephen King's The Institute.
Sure.
So
okay. Well, I too read The Institute. I'm moving on to my bookmark here. I also read a Star Trek Deep Space Nine book by Mel Gildon. We're going to be having Mel on the podcast in a couple of weeks. Author of many things, juvenile books, adult books, a lot of
Are you already on a first-name basis with him? You haven't even interviewed the guy.
Sorry. Mel Gildon. He's going to be on the show in a few weeks. But author of many things, worked with a lot of established franchise, did some TV work as well. So we're going to be talking to him in the coming weeks. But I enjoyed that. That was fun.
Yeah.
Institute was a real downer. Then I read a couple of graphic novels. Quickly, I read X-Men Alpha Flight. So the old Canadian team, Alpha Flight. Fun.
Sure.
That era is not super dynamic, but, that was fun.
I tend to only care about Alpha Flight, once every couple of years. They come and, Wolverine needs to be back on the team.
Yeah.
And
that's pretty much what
fight 'em.
This was basically a collection of those.
I just like them fighting X-Men.
I read one that I absolutely loved. So if you go back a few episodes and listen to our Spider-Man, off the book Spider-Man comics, I talked a lot about Spider-Man Worldwide. And I finished that, so I've been kind of looking for things that are happening at the same time.
Yeah.
I was. And I picked up Chip Zdarsky's Peter Parker, The Spectacular Spider-Man Volume 1, Into the Twilight, and loved it.
Wow.
I thought it was so good. And he wrote the Jughead series for a while, and I bumped up with this author a couple different times. And this I thought was a real hit.
Nice.
So I enjoyed this quite a bit, and I've already ordered Volume 2. Can't wait to read it.
We should also say that we're recording this the day before you go to do the election.
That's true.
Which is always just a huge checklist on the next recording.
Yes.
So next
you can
bookmark
prepare
next
for
week is
that.
going to be rough for
It will. It will be a 25-minute bookmark. Yeah, I've been doing the election inspecting for, I don't know, at least 10 years now.
Yeah.
It's a long day, 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. And so I stock up with
Yeah.
books and scripts and graphic novels and magazines, whatever I can get my hands on.
Yeah.
And some people just sit there
Quietly.
the whole day,
Yeah.
and I don't understand it.
Holding their own hand.
I mean, God bless them, but I don't understand it.
Staring into
at
nothingness.
all.
Watching the political system take its course.
I guess so.
Flushing the whole
And
country
then
down the toilet.
finally, I just want to get a little bit of real estate
Ooh.
to Robert Kirkman's Invincible, because I've been reading this series for many, many years now. Nearly 150 issues. It finally came to a close. I actually read it as part of the Invincible Compendium 3. So you can get the entire run of the series in 3 compendiums that do about 60, I guess, 60,
Those things
30, something like that.
are always
50.
nice in idea.
Yeah.
But then just the idea of trying to read them.
Well, they're actually, I know what you mean, but they're actually really well made. They open, the spines are strong. I've read I read the whole second compendium like that.
Wow.
So I didn't have any problem
man.
with it. But anyway, the specific volumes that I read would be 24 and 25, called The End of All Things Part 1 and 2. So this is a long-running superhero series set outside. It's not DC, it's not Marvel, it's just its own thing. And this kind of brought everything to a head and really, I mean, it was a true conclusion. It really wrapped up the story. You know, it settled storylines that have been going from day one. It kind of gave you a look at the future of what's to come, and I thought it was a very satisfying ending.
Nice.
I'm never a fan of, like, when you get to the issues that are like, let's have a big giant fight, you know. And in these last 2 volumes, there was some of that, but I think the story closure overall, I think it's just it's an expertly written series. I recommend it very highly. There's crazy violence in it, but it's like Looney Tune cartoon level violence. So it's makes it, for me, I'm just kind of like, that's weird, you know. It's
Looney Tunes by way of HBO.
Yeah, pretty much. But I do love this series. I do love it. And you've not finished this.
I haven't finished it, but I like the series.
Do you think you
bit.
will?
Yeah,
So
I
you go
just
back and pick it
I was always reading them in those like 12 or 24
the
issues,
hardcovers,
the hardcovers. And I'm not entirely sure where I am. I'd have to go on Goodreads again to find out.
Yeah.
Remember that? I mean, of course you do, but the whole new Krypton arc for Superman that lasted forever.
Yeah.
And we were both reading like the graphics.
Yeah.
And then it was just like it all ended in like a 6-issue big fight.
Yeah.
that was not worth the wait.
Right. Yeah,
So,
this was much better
That's
than
exactly what I was thinking of when you said like the big fight. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
jeez.
Well, that's a good a good example. And then I guess that's it for what I've been reading. I'm currently reading some goofy ones. Green Lantern Corps, Beware Their Power. This is by our friend Steve Englehart, who was on the show a few weeks back. So if you haven't listened to the Englehart episode,
We talked to him, yeah.
I really encourage you to go back and listen to it because it's a great interview. And if you're an X-Men fan, you can pop over to Eric's podcast, previously on X-Men, where he and Hillary interviewed him about mostly his run on the Beast, which we've talked about on this show as well. So anyway, if you haven't listened to those episodes, go back on the All the Books show, soundcloud.com/allthebooks, listen to that. Go over to previously on X-Men, listen to the X-Men half of it. But anyway, this is part of his Green Lantern run, and things are getting real kooky because the Green Lantern Corps like split, and some of them are settling with Gorbachev in the USSR, and some of them are over here on the other side hanging out with Ronald Reagan. And so it's a weird like Green Lantern Cold War situation.
Okay.
Very of its time, but I mean, I like Englehart's writing, so I'm enjoying it.
Kilowog, tear down that wall.
You're not wrong.
Really?
And then I'm also reading...
Does it involve Hal creating a Green Lantern, a green guitar and playing on the Berlin Wall?
Not yet,
Okay.
but I still have some issues. And then I'm reading a novel called The Yoga of Max's Discontent by Karen Bajaj. So this is it's an interesting book. It's just one I just happened to come across, and I was really taken by it. I'm about halfway through it now, and the story basically is Max loses his parents, and his life is just he's like, I'm over this. And so I think he's originally from India, but grew up in the States, and so he kind of goes back and is trying to get up into the Himalayas and basically have this existential experience, and he's very like aware of what a cliche that is and everything, but he's just kind of working through it right now.
Right.
And I'm enjoying it. It's not always landing the tone. Like sometimes it feels like it's a very literal story, and other times it's a little too like ethereal. So I'm hoping it all shakes out by the end because I'm enjoying the writing and I'm really liking the story. But that's what I'm doing right now.
Okay.
And that's going to be it for Bookmark. Though we have two things that we should mention. One, Eric and I went to the Retro Gaming Con in Syracuse.
That's true.
And that was a lot of fun.
That was.
Eric met David Hayter. Screenwriter, voice actor. Director as well, yep. And we got some retro video games. Yeah. I got some things for my Game Boy to play at the election tomorrow.
Is that true?
Including Tasmania 2, Star Trek Generations, Classic Frogger.
Those are you're planning to take those to?
Yeah, I am.
You got enough batteries?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question. Game Boy Color, pretty good on the
true,
batteries.
Yeah.
Game Gear, forget it.
Yeah.
15 minutes. You need 6 new AA's.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Sorry.
So that was super cool. Anything you want to say about Retro Gaming Con?
No, it was a good time.
What are you most looking forward to play?
That I got?
Yeah.
Ooh, I guess Bait and Kaitos.
And that is what now?
It's a JRPG.
Okay.
That's battle system is based around cards.
What does JRPG mean again?
Japanese role-playing game.
Oh, okay.
Also, Beautiful Joe, which is a like 2D side-scrolling game by Capcom.
On GameCube.
That I missed and I never played, even though it always looked really cool. I saw Jojo Rabbit.
Oh, how was that?
Good. It's by
Taika Waititi's like
Taika
Hitler
Waititi's
movie, right?
Nazi Germany movie, comedy.
Sure.
It's less of a comedy than though. I mean, What We Do in the Shadows is a straight comedy.
Yes.
And then where the Hunt for the Wilder People and now Jojo Rabbit, they're much more. They feel more in like the Wes Anderson camp, where it's like serious,
When
but
I saw
also
when I
absurd.
saw the preview, I thought it was a Wes
Yeah.
Anderson movie.
I didn't. I liked it without loving it. There's
Okay.
some funny stuff in there. I saw one review call it like the feel-good Holocaust film, and I guess that's kind of true. There's some
weird
like
thing to say.
sad things that come out of that movie, but it is just kind of like the like a quirky family Holocaust film if you had to. So I don't think it's his strongest work, but my wife really liked it, and when I was leaving and just like waiting in the hallway, everybody coming out of it was talking about what a good movie it was, including a whole bunch of kids. So
Interesting.
I would probably have wanted to take my kid to
Yeah,
it, but
doesn't
you know.
sound quite right.
still good. Yeah, Sam Rockwell's really good in it.
Okay.
He's in it.
I mentioned last week that I watched The Aviator,
Mm.
and then I watched Shutter Island,
Mm.
based on a novel by Dennis Lehane,
Oh,
and I was not a fan.
yeah. Maybe you just don't like Scorsese.
I'm sort of thinking maybe that's
Oh,
true.
no.
I mean, I do like Goodfellas, but I hated that George Harrison documentary.
Mhm.
I thought Aviator was just fine, and I thought that Shutter Island really missed the mark.
Mm. You might like The Last Waltz,
Okay.
the band.
I've always wanted to see The King of Comedy.
Oh, yeah.
An Irishman looks really good to me. So
Yeah.
who knows?
Last Waltz is the concert film of the last concert that the band did.
Oh, okay.
Like they performed at SNL and then they did this big concert.
Right.
And it has like Neil Young and Ringo Starr and
It's cool. I saw Ringo Starr
that's true.
4 times.
Wow.
I know.
Okay.
But
Almost
anyway,
more than John Lennon.
Yeah, so we watched The Aviator last week,
Uh-huh.
and Rufus Wainwright was in it.
Right.
And we saw Rufus Wainwright in
Oh,
concert
yeah.
over the weekend, and it was just a weird
Yeah.
coincidence that we happened to see that movie.
Nice.
Do you know Rufus Wainwright at all?
I like his version of Hallelujah.
From Shrek.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was he sang a couple Leonard Cohens that I knew, and my wife's a big fan, so there was some that I'd heard before, but it's not something that I'm like a big fan of. I'm going out and collecting all his albums or anything.
Mm.
But it was one of those situations where he was just so good live
Mhm.
and such. I mean, his voice is just so rich and engaging that it made me like become a fan.
Oh.
Which is not always the case. You know, when you go
Right.
to a concert of a person that you don't really care about, sometimes you're just kind of like, oh, okay. But
Yeah.
no, I was good. I will say there was a smoke machine down there,
Ooh.
and they started pumping that out during the opening act,
Mm-hmm.
and it pretty much put me in the grave for the rest of the concert. I was in bad shape. But anyway, I was a big fan of the Rufus Wainwright concert. It was a good times. He's got an album coming out, I think next month or something, so
Right.
I'll probably have that here in
Okay.
the collection.
Also,
so-
if anybody has a Dreamcast they don't want,
yes,
get in touch with the All the Book Show
Send
Twitter.
me a Dreamcast.
Because Nick spent Retro GameCon looking for a good deal on
People kept
Dreamcast.
snapping up
Yeah.
Sega Dreamcast from what, 2000?
Yeah.
I missed it entirely.
1999,
Never
yeah.
got it. Never got it.
Yeah. Everybody was selling a Dreamcast. You could get like one controller
Yeah.
or a memory card.
Yeah,
But
and
no
games. Nobody,
yeah.
not even like a crappy like NFL game or
Yeah.
something. Nothing. You could get
So.
nothing. Anyway, before we move away from Rufus Wainwright, we
Oh.
spent the night in Buffalo,
Okay.
nearby the concert place, so we could just walk to it.
Right.
And the hotel guy was like, because the parking lot was far away, so the hotel guy was taking our car, and I popped the trunk, forgetting that it's full of the props from Write Me a Murder, the
Oh.
play that we just did in there.
Uh-huh.
So in my trunk there was a briefcase full of fake money rolled up,
Uh-huh.
and 3 black pistols. One had a silencer on it.
Oh my
as well as a
gosh.
grocery. They were like spilling out of a
Right.
grocery bag, and I was like, ah! And my
Yeah.
wife was probably thinking, well, why didn't I know this? And it's because I didn't tell her, because I figured it would stress her out.
That those stuff were in the. Oh,
Yeah,
so this
the-
is the first time she found.
Yeah,
He's gonna hear it now.
because it was just like, it was comical. Like I lifted it
Right.
up, and like the guy's right there, and I'm just like, oh,
Yeah.
just a
Yeah.
briefcase of money and several pistols in a
panically
shopping
shoving
bag.
it in. Yeah. Like, that's really my wife.
Anyway, we had a great time with the show. We had a nice turnout for Write Me a Murder.
Huh.
So thanks everybody who came to that. I know I mentioned that last week,
Mhm.
but we're still getting some nice. The pictures are up on the website, davidahowpubliclibrary.org, or Facebook,
Yeah.
David A. Howe. And a few weeks back, we did a special interview about the show. So if you didn't
Mhm.
listen to that, dive into the archives. Listen to we talked to Joanna Bates about being in the play.
Hmm.
Anyway, I think that's going to do it. Should
Yeah.
we move into some book news?
Yep.
You remember a couple years ago?
News.
Yeah. Remember a couple years ago when I was like, that's not the only theme you're going to have to play, because I'm going to talk about the Booker Prize.
Nic and Eric present the awards.
That was the award theme, everybody.
You remember the debacle we had with Colson Whitehead's Underground Railroad, where I was like, no,
Oh, yeah.
never going to
Well, It was Nick's debacle. Nobody else's was experiencing this debacle except for Nic.
I'll own it. I'll own it. I still think it's not a great book. I think it was timely, but it's not a great book. Anyway, I said the same thing about Margaret Atwood's The Testaments. I was like, no way is Margaret Atwood's The Testament's going to win the Booker Prize. It's crazy.
No.
It's basically like
No.
It's basically like fan fiction of her own book. You know?
Right.
Anyway, the winners this year, and I do mean winners plural. We've got two.
Ooh.
So it's not the first time this has happened. In 92, The English Patient shared it with Barry Unsworth's Sacred Hunger. But after that, they were really strict with the rules and were like, never again are we going to split this, because it just kind of takes away from both books, you know, because you're sharing the title. But lo and behold, Margaret Atwood's The Testament wins. And so as Atwood unfolds the Testament, she opens up the innermost workings of Gilead as each woman is forced to come to terms with who she is and how far she will go for what she believes. Cool. So obviously not a book to read if you haven't read The Handmaid's Tale, which came out many years ago and is now a show on Netflix. Or no, Hulu, sorry. And Hulu's also adapting this.
And not a book to read if your brain can't handle green text.
Yeah, a lot of...
Because of all the money.
Yeah, that's for sure. And our second winner, you know what? No, I'm going to say this is the first winner.
The real winner.
Testament
Whoa,
is the
here we
second
go.
winner. Girl, Woman, Other by Bernadine Evaristo. Welcome to Britain and 12 very different people, mostly women, mostly black, who call it home, teeming with life and crackling with energy. Girl, Woman, Other follows them across the miles and down the years with vivid originality, impressible wit, and sly wisdom. Bernadine Evaristo presents a gloriously new kind of history for this old country, ever dynamic, ever expanding, and utterly irresistible. You can find about more of these on thebookerprizes.com, but this is a bit of an upset because they don't do two. The one time they did it, everybody was like, this is terrible, never do it again. And they were like, okay, we promise, and then they did it anyway. And it's a pretty divisive. If you read any of the commentary about it, articles about it, when it was announced on the short list, many people were like, come on. Yeah. You know, and now that it's actually like, and it didn't even just win alone. I feel like if it just won alone, that would be one thing, but it just kind of feels like, you know, it's also kind of taken this other book down a notch. So I don't know. I haven't read the book, so I can't speak to why, but it's certainly a topic of debate. So anyway, you can find more at thebookerprizes.com. Many articles in the Washington Post or New York Times, just all across discussing this. It is The Guardian also. This is a topic of discussion. So.
And you can join us next year for the winner, Fahrenheit 452.
Oh, that's nice. That's a fun story.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's the temperature books, they all keep burning
They go higher.
They keep burning at
higher.
that temperature,
Okay.
yes.
Yep. That makes sense.
Oh, man,
That's
I have
how
to
it
tell you
works.
this. Before we went to see Jojo Rabbits, we went to Denny's.
Yeah, I love Denny's.
The people we were next to were talking about books.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm a bit biased.
Yeah.
You're probably going to be a bit biased because we're on a book podcast.
Sure we are.
But
I'm a library director.
It was hard listening to the table. I don't want to listen to other people's conversations at tables. If I'm in a restaurant, the last thing I want to do is hear anybody else. But they were just so close and they were talking so loud. It was just this guy being like, last time I read a book was in 10th grade. Blah, blah, blah.
Let me ask you this.
But then he mentioned like, and then they got onto the topic of 451. And the guy's like, terrible book. I had no idea what's going on. I handed that book and I'm like, I don't like this person. I don't like this place. I will take my grits to go.
Please don't take it out on Denny's.
All right.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
When people find out your job, do they tell you how long it's been since they've been into the library?
Sometimes.
Because that's most of the time, like doctors or like whoever. I run, you're a library director. Oh, boy. I used to love going to the library. Yeah. There's always some like library-related story. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. It is fun. If I like a thing, don't tell me how long it's been since you've done that.
I know,
thing
I
like.
agree. And it's always a little weird when somebody will tell you like, I haven't read a book in 15 years. Almost like it's a point of pride.
Yeah.
You know, it's weird. It's like,
good for you. Yeah.
Okay. You know, well, read one. You know, I guess would be my advice. But
anyway, it was a frustrating conversation because I was just having to sit there listening.
This is something that I'm terrible about doing this, but
they were Bills fans, so
I feel like my library work. One time we were in a shop, like a used shop, and my wife kind of walked away and she came back and she was like, "What are you doing?" Because I'd been standing in the same place and I was organizing the books. So that's the kind of thing that happens a lot. Or sometimes I'll be in a Barnes and Noble and I'll hear somebody ask the person a question and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I don't know," and they'll kind of wait until they walk away and I'll be like, "Come here, the series is over."
It's like when I was at Barnes and Noble. Mobile, and I got like 3 or 4 people asking me, like, can I help you find anything?
Yeah.
And at that point, I was like, I need to wear a shirt that says, I'm a librarian.
Yeah.
I don't need any help right now.
Yeah.
I
had a whole conversation with a lady in line at Walmart who was going to buy it was a CJ box book, but it was a reprint. And she was like, oh, this is new. I haven't read it. And I was like, oh, actually, that's a reprint of the second book. And if you're a fan.
I was just at Target.
I'm a menace.
And I was in the book section, and I was
Yeah.
just taking pictures of books
Yeah.
to order for us.
Right.
That's all I do now in
Yeah.
book section. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not looking for me anymore. I'm like, oh, I need to get that.
Yeah.
Click, click, click.
Yeah. Do you sound
So-
like that?
Can I also get on a soapbox about physical media? Target was having a sale.
Yeah.
Buy
Oh, yeah.
two.
You sent me that sign.
Right.
Yeah.
Buy 2, get 1 free.
Yeah.
I was like, cool, I'll buy 2 DVDs and get
Yeah.
1 free. But Target and Walmart, they've all moved away from physical media.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, I don't want to buy the new Lion King or Aladdin.
Right.
So I can't use this. And it's on everything. It's on video games. They don't have it. They don't carry that many video games anymore.
Right.
And it's just like, it feels like now stores don't carry physical media because we don't buy physical media, but it's because they've cut back on all their physical
Right.
media. And I mean, I don't know the numbers and stuff, but it feels like they've created this situation themselves.
Yeah.
Which is very frustrating.
Yeah.
Because I still like buying physical media.
Right.
It seems like other people, in the area we live, people still check out all our DVDs.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's a lot of it is the access you have to do things like a reliable internet connection.
Yeah.
I mean, where I live, our internet connection's been terrible for years,
Mhm.
you know, and so we still do mostly DVDs, even though
Right.
we can stream some things.
Yeah.
But I think it's something like that too. I think you just sort of take for granted, oh, people have access to that, they can do it, whatever.
Yeah.
But
It's
you
weird.
know, you sort of miss the era of like I remember I had the whole run of Scott Pilgrim like back in the
Mhm.
day. And I lent that to so many people,
Yeah.
you know, and like those made the rounds so
Yeah.
much, like DVDs and stuff, and you sort of missed that. So,
Yeah.
you are an old man on a soapbox.
Sorry.
I'm so young and hip, but you.
Yeah.
Did I tell you about my Game Boy Color games that I got?
Let's talk about the New York Times bestsellers list for
We've been
hardcover
away.
fiction.
We've been away a little bit, so I want to hear.
Number 10, 10th place after 7 weeks, after all the money and all the to-do. It's at number 10. It's been going down every week. Luckily, it just won the Booker Prize, The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. So that's how important it is. Colson Whitehead was, number 1 for...
long
How was it
time.
not The Marsh Woman? Or did that
That
already
won
win?
the Booker Prize?
Yeah.
Well, that's last year.
Okay.
But it didn't win the Booker Prize. Last year, I think, was Milkman.
Yeah,
won the Booker Prize.
everybody's talking about Milkman.
Well, that's the difference though with the Booker Prize because first of all it's a 50,000.
Well, then why would they pick The Testament?
I know, that's what I'm saying. It's a 50,000 pound
Mhm.
prize, and it's I feel like
Congratulations, Margaret Atwood.
I know, right? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh, just put it over on the millions
she's
pile,
just
please.
shoveling up all that Hulu cash.
Yeah.
And so it's a weird
Mhm.
weird use of that prize because you're not
Mhm.
like elevating a new person, and it's a sequel to a book that was 20 years ago. So
Yeah.
like you're not going to be picking up new readers
Mhm.
necessarily. It's not. It's
All right, number 10 was the Man Booker Prize. Number 10 was the
Testament.
Booker Prize winner, The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. Number 9 on the New York Times bestsellers list is The Institute by Stephen King. Also 7 weeks on this list.
2 books that we have attitudes about
Mm.
back to back.
Children with special talents are abducted and sequestered in an institute where
Oh.
the sinister staff seeks to extract their gifts through harsh methods. That description is more entertaining than the book.
And actually, that's all you need to know.
That's true.
It's one of those books where it's like you read the synopsis, you don't have to read
Save
the
it.
book.
Number 8 this week is The Water Dancer by Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Mm.
A young man who is gifted with mysterious power becomes part of a war between slavers and the enslaved. Number 7, The Dutch House by Anne Patchett. That's just a house full of farts. I made that
don't
joke.
like this
I
joke.
made that joke last time, but
And
I
you
cut it
cut it?
out because of JM
De Matteis.
De Matteis was our guest, and I was like, I can't have a fart house joke on that episode.
You shouldn't at all.
We don't have a guest
I would allow it if it was funny, but it's not.
like a Dutch
I
oven.
understand, but
Yeah.
it's too many steps.
In the Dutch house, you have a Dutch fridge,
It's not funny.
you have a Dutch sink.
I separate myself from this.
A sibling relationship is impacted when the family goes from poverty to wealth and back again over the course of many decades.
Boy.
Speaking of impacted, Papa ain't got no wisdom teeth anymore.
That's right.
I've just
That's
got
right.
4 empty spaces where
Yeah.
I used to have teeth.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's all I've got.
I went through the same thing. It was about 20 years ago.
Wow. Well, this guy right here, pointing at myself.
It was 15 years ago.
Yeah. I'm 33. So what was that for you then?
I was 21.
Oh, okay.
It was like the day before my 21st birthday. So I was in college,
Smart.
so I had to do it on on Christmas
Well, I missed
vacation.
gorging myself on Halloween candy.
Were you going to gorge yourself on Halloween candy?
Yes.
Did you get trick-or-treaters at your house?
So many.
None.
Oh.
I got none.
2 giant bowls. Just
for you.
gone. I thought we were going to have a bunch left over. Nothing.
I can't begrudge you.
Took
that.
all the
I'm
Reese's
glad-
Cups.
I'm happy to hear it.
Number 6, The 19th Christmas by James Patterson and Maxine Pietro.
19th Christmas, I gave you my heart, but the very next... Do you want me to stop? I thought you were going to chime in.
I was just going to wait.
You were just going to
Wait
play it
out.
out?
Yeah.
Oh, very next day, you gave
You got to add more
away.
original pieces in it, though, or copyright's going to come down
you're
on
right.
this hard.
You're right.
Detective Lindsay Boxer and company take on a fearsome criminal known as Loman. Number 5, new this week, Agent Running in the Field by John Le Carre, a veteran of
John Le Carre, really?
John Le Carre,
Wow.
a veteran of Britain's secret intelligence service who is assigned to command a lesser band of spies, hatches a covert operation.
Can I be
Is
real?
this a
with
comedy?
Can I be real with you right now?
What?
I did not know this man was still alive.
Whoa! Congratulations, John Le Carre,
Yeah, you did it.
for defeating expectations on Nick's part here.
Yeah.
That sounds like a whole bunch of wacky spies who aren't really good at their
I haven't-
job.
You know, I picked up Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy to read, but it's
Yeah.
actually it's part of the George Smiley series. It's not book 1, so
Oh.
it's not a good place to start.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the movie, the Gary Oldman movie, which
Right.
I like, but it's very slow.
Okay.
It's the slowest movie in the world on purpose.
Number 4, new this week, The Deserter by Nelson Demille and
He's 88.
Alex Demille.
He's 88. That's all I'm saying.
And
John Le Carre's
Cecil
88.
B. Demille.
Ready for my close-up?
2 members of the Criminal Investigation Division must bring back a Delta Force soldier who has disappeared. The Deserter.
Okay.
Number 3, 60 Weeks on the List, Where the Crawdad Sings by Delia Owens. 60 weeks.
That's a pretty good run.
Still at number 3.
Pretty good run.
Number 2, The Guardians by John Grisham. Cullen Post, a lawyer and Episcopal minister, antagonizes some ruthless killers where he takes on wrongfully convicted case. Good for him. That's how I got, because those people at Denny's were talking about how they read a Grisham, well, you read that Grisham baseball book. I'm just like,
Calico Joe?
I was just like, too little, too late.
Yeah.
I'm leaving.
How was Calico Joe?
I
think it's about a one-eyed
I
baseball
was not
player.
trying to listen to their conversation.
I think he gets hits in the face with a baseball and loses an eye.
Oh, okay.
And then it's Calico Joe.
Number 1, The Night Fire by
Haven't read
Michael
it.
Connolly. Harry Bosch and Renee Ballard return to take up a case that held the attention of Bosch's mentor. That's it.
Okay.
You like Bosch books? You might like this one.
Yeah, I do like Bosch books. I'm so far behind. It'll be like 10 years before I
Mhm.
get to that book, but
Yeah.
it's all right.
Yeah, okay.
Boosh. All right, so that's the whole list?
That was the whole list.
Okay. Pretty exciting.
Yeah. In a way.
Boy, we're getting to hear a lot of the themes today. I'm excited about this next one.
All the Books presents Author Spotlight.
Which theme was that?
Author Spotlight.
Yeah.
And it works because it's a spooky theme. Stephen King is a spooky writer. This book was so boring it scared me.
Ah.
Okay. Let's you know what? Let me ask you this. Let me ask how you feel about this. Can we just spoil this book? Like if we're telling everybody right now that we're going to talk about the resolution to this book, can
Should we
just do
talk
that?
about the book and then spoil it? Do non-spoiler spoilers?
All right. So we'll keep you safe of spoilers
We won't
for now.
spoil it.
But when we get time to talk about things that would be a spoiler, we'll give you another warning.
I will say, you can't really be spoiled from this book.
I will also say there's no need to read this book.
So
I'm just going to say it outright. Okay. Let's do a little synopsis here of this real piece of work. Oh, I guess you kind of did already, but basically, you start with a guy who is leaving Florida. He's heading to New York.
Mhm.
He's he's getting ready to board a plane.
Mhm.
The plane is booked, and they're trying to get somebody to take a later flight, and they're offering cash incentives and all that. And so finally, he's like, yeah, whatever. And he ends up in, I want to say what, South Carolina.
South Carolina.
South Carolina, and he was
Born and raised.
he was a cop. He was a cop in Florida, and he ends
Yeah.
up being a night knocker in South Carolina. And I Googled what a night knocker is, and all I could find was other people Googling what a night knocker is, because it's basically like a guard.
Mhm.
Like he works for the police force. He doesn't have a badge and a gun. He goes around and it's just kind of like if he sees trouble, he calls the police. So I guess he's like a nosy neighbor.
Yeah.
So
He's
you're
the night watch, but on foot.
yeah, so you're following this dude for about 60 pages, and then we switch to the kids in the Institute. And I got to tell you, I was all in. for this guy being a night knocker in this small town, like getting to know these people and things. I was ready to settle into that story. I was very disappointed when we were a couple of maybe 20 pages into the Institute section. I was like, I don't like where this is going. And I kept expecting that we were going to bounce back to our friend from the beginning. And we really didn't until very close to the end.
Yeah.
So from then, we're in the Institute. And as the New York Times synopsis tells you, I mean, it's just kids in an institute, and they're trying to get like latent powers out of them, right? I mean, trying to find if they're telekinetic or what's the other one?
Telepathic.
Right.
Or both.
Trying to decide what they are. And they're basically like torturing it out of them.
Yeah.
And so kids are abducted in the middle of the night, parents killed, kids taken to the Institute, and then they wake up in a recreation of their bedroom, but they're in this like creepy dormitory where other kids like them are being tested. Yeah. And on it goes for hundreds of pages.
As a kid, I would have not wanted a recreation of my bedroom because I had to share it with two brothers.
Yeah.
I'd want like a whole new bedroom just for this guy.
So that's kind of where you're at. We follow our main character, Luke, I want to say. Was it Luke?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because you're asking me, I'm like, is that true? But
well,
yes.
I mean, I finished this quite a while ago.
Okay.
So you're following Luke for a long time, and he's kind of working it, and he finds a way to get around the firewall and is able to get some news from the outside, and is able to help some of the orderlies, and eventually escapes. And then the hunt is on. So he's trying to get to somewhere because he's far away from where he was, and just trying to find someplace safe where he can get somebody to believe this wild story. Meanwhile, the Institute pursues him. Okay, so I think we'll stop there before we get to spoiler warning. So,
okay.
But let's talk about that much of the book so far.
Okay.
Like I said, with our main... what is this? Tim, right? Tim is the night knocker?
Yeah.
Tim, in his Nightwalker section, Night Knocker, I really like that. I would have enjoyed, like, if that was a short story and we just kind of closed that up or expanded into a whole book. I thought that story had some juice to it because it's an unusual situation. It's kind of, it's kind of a fish out of water story where he's there. But I just had nothing when we got to the Institute. I don't give a lot of 1-star reviews, but I did for this one, and I actually think it's not worth reading.
Wow. Yeah, I saw your 1-star.
So what do you think about it?
Yeah, thanks for doing that, too. I still had like 40% of the book to go, and Nick's just like, 1 star. I'm like, great, cool, this will be fun.
That's surprising because, I mean, I'm the Stephen King fan, and you're the Stephen King... sometimes fan? I don't know. You like Stephen King. You don't love him. Now you don't like him.
I don't know.
Okay.
I wouldn't tell anyone I'm a Stephen King fan. I would just say I've read some of his stuff.
That's fair.
So.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right. So what were your thoughts? Did you like the early section?
I mean, this just shows like the different taste between you and me because I didn't really care about the whole Night Knocker stuff. I'm like, well, this is quaint, small town, but I've been to North and South Carolina.
I just thought there was a lot of things to mine there.
Yeah.
Because he's not really a cop, but he has all this experience and it can kind of shake things up. It just seemed like they were setting up some, things that have been done before. Yeah. Some rivalries within the force.
I think it was scratching your Robert B. Parker itch.
You're right. I think you're right.
So Paradise. What's the first one called?
Yeah, Jesse Stone. Trouble in Paradise.
Trouble in Paradise. I think it scratched your Jesse Stone one.
Yeah. You know what?
Yeah.
You're not wrong about that.
Okay.
The Institute, I was wholly bored by.
Yeah.
I didn't think that any of the things they were doing were really interesting. I thought it was fairly obvious what was going on, but also you went hundreds of pages without any kind of real information. You're only seeing things from the kids' perspective, and they're sort of figuring it out, but at a snail's pace.
Yeah.
What did you think about the Institute?
I did not care for this book at all. It feels so paint by the numbers. It feels so middle of the road.
It does.
And it feels like, okay, Stephen King, you need to put a book out because you want to make money. I can't believe after having read this whole book that it was a burning desire in you. This was not a story that you're like, I gotta write the Institute. Yeah. The world needs to know. It's just like, I can do this in my sleep. And it probably did.
Well, he wrote Carrie on Cocaine, right?
It feels like he doesn't respect the reader's time because he was writing this very 3-star middle-of-the-road book. And that would be fine if it was half the length of this book. If this was a 300-page book and it was just kind of like introduce the topic, some bad things, escape, and all that stuff, fine. I'd probably give it 3 stars and then move on. But because it's so long and because it's so pointless and already been done before by everybody else, it becomes offensive then, because it's just like, well, I have other stuff to do and other books to read. If you don't have anything to say, why am I reading this? This isn't even, it's not even like a high octane like thriller.
No.
So why, what is the point of this? It just feels like a waste of everybody's time.
Well, I think that when we first started this book a few weeks back, you said that he's too big to have an editor, but desperately needs an editor.
Yeah.
And I know that's such a classic criticism of Stephen King, that that his books are too long. And so I was kind of like, yeah, okay, because I really like 11/22/63, and I've read some of his really long books that I loved.
Right.
But this one, I think you're absolutely right.
See, if he's writing a long book and he's filling it with all these interesting characters and backstories and twists and everything, that's one thing. But this doesn't have anything. There are no twists.
No.
Like, if the description the New York Times bestsellers list gives is all you need to know, and then I could give it to a stranger and they could just outline it and they could probably figure it out.
Yeah.
So there's no twist. There's no interesting like character backstories to like delve into. So it really is just like the day-to-day torture of kids. And what I find especially boring about this book is that, like, I like shared universes.
Yeah.
But sometimes there are topics that when a shared universe shares the same thing, it becomes kind of dull.
Yeah.
And so this is in the Stephen King verse, as it is, which means all these psychic kids, it's just The Shining. So we've already read about this multiple times before, and I feel like if he's the more comic book take on, like, The Shining as a power was done better in Dr. Sleep when it wasn't
I
about
agree.
400 pages of AA meetings.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. It's just like, if he wants to write this stuff, I'm sure Marvel would say yes to Stephen King.
Well, I felt like we're in the Institute and it's too long, and then he gets out of the Institute and it's too long. But that's, to me, where I became a little like, I hate this, because Luke is running from the Institute, and he's stopping in these towns.
Spoiler time. If you don't want to have the book spoiled for you, turn off this podcast
This
now.
is our spoiler?
But
Okay.
literally, there's nothing to spoil about this book.
I agree.
So.
All right. Okay. So Luke's escaping
Uh-huh.
with the help of some orderlies. And the thing that made me crazy, the thing that was really like, this is too much, is that he runs through all these towns and eventually gets to Tim, the Night Knocker, from the beginning. And then you have to watch the Institute follow his trail the whole way.
Right.
You don't need to see that. Like, we've just gone through this whole thing. I feel like you could have cut. There's many hundreds of pages you could have cut, but I think you could have cut 100 pages by just saying eventually the Institute caught up with him. Because
the last, like, 100 or 200 pages is also then Luke describing
what happened at the Institute, yes.
to these other people. And so you're now reading all these pages of descriptions of what you just read.
Right.
But, like, there is no, like...
Yeah, so you do that twice, and you do the chase twice.
Yeah. There's never like a twist like what their institute is really doing. There's no.
Well, I mean, there kind of is.
I guess, but like you could just figure it out. They're turning the kids into weapons. Like you don't really need. I mean, it's nefarious.
No. I don't think it's quite that. I mean, it is and it isn't. But they're
the precog thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, at the end of this book, it's said that like they also have an institute that's a bunch of precogs guessing, and so they're using the institute kids to stop bad things from happening. What the precogs say, but like that's
the only, and it's done 1,000 times. But that's the only moral question of the book. Is it morally acceptable for the Institute to be using these kids to take out people who are theoretically going to be threats in 30 years? It's the old, like, do you kill Hitler as a baby thing.
But that's told to us just through like exposition.
Right.
Just a guy coming who hasn't been in the book at all.
Right.
He just tells everybody what the real plot was.
Yeah.
And then the kids are like, well, that doesn't make much sense.
And see our episode about the Dead Zone, because that's how the Dead Zone ends.
Yeah.
The Dead Zone is all about, like, is it he has this whole struggle where he's trying to decide if he should take out this politician, and it's the same thing. I actually looked to see if it was supposed to be like a sequel to the Dead Zone, like if it was supposed
to. Verse,
I guess.
So.
Yeah, I mean, that's not strict, but it just, to me.
Well, he made sure he referenced Jerusalem. I feel like he references.
Did he reference Salem's Lot?
Yeah. They said something like, go ask the people in Jerusalem's Lot if they were still there.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like every book I've read of his references Jerusalem Lot.
You're probably right.
Okay.
He didn't say Derry, Maine ever, so
no.
I think that's a rare
one. Maine is big, but how big is Maine?
But that's another thing. It's like, yeah, I mean, you don't reference The Shining in any way, but you do something that's really similar. Yeah. And then you don't reference the Dead Zone when it's like, the Dead Zone, I guess his powers work a little differently, but it's the whole second half of the Dead Zone.
Yeah.
It's him trying to make this moral decision.
Yeah.
And so I guess in if it was a short story or something, to explore whether or not some of the kids surviving when they know that they're better off dying for the future's sake, did they make the right decision in not sacrificing themselves? Like, was it a selfish decision for them to save themselves when they...
But that's only brought up in like the last 10 pages.
That's what I'm saying. If it was a short story and that was the only thing you were talking about, I think that could be an interesting topic.
Maybe.
Just like I think, exploring the old chestnut of, do you do something now to prevent something in the future, could be something to talk about. But
but also the book
but
is...
it's a tag. I mean, it's an
just
epilogue.
weird. It's just Stephen King, like, he was like, I got to write a book where I can just have a bunch of people slap kids for about 400 pages.
Yeah, I really don't
slap
know.
them, drown them, punch them, smack, all this stuff. And it's just like, well, this has been miserable for everybody. And not like miserable where like there's very little catharsis even at the end when the kids are like breaking out. It's just like, I'd rather, yes, obviously I would rather read X-Men because this story has been done to death in that universe. But I'd also rather watch like Akira or any other thing that covers like kids with powers in these kinds of situations, because I've seen it done better and much more interesting with much more pathos. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I the whole time I was reading this, it's probably because I read it recently. X-23, the Wolverine clone, she was raised to be, a killer and all this. But that was only like 6 issues, written in like 2004. And there's just so much more like emotion and psychology in those like 6 comic book issues than there is in this 600 pages book of Stephen King, who's, America's right. It's kind of, I don't know. If somebody else can do that in like however many panels or in 6 issues, that much better than all this freedom Stephen King has. It says something to me, I guess.
It's been a little while. I mean, I really enjoyed Revival. That was a Stephen King book that came out a few years back. I like that a lot. So I don't think it's that he has lost the touch. I just think, I don't know, I just think there's a point in the process where a writer in a different place would probably have somebody being like, this isn't cutting it. This isn't, you need to rethink this or whatever. And I think this is one that just doesn't, there's not enough.
Like
there's not enough here to
real
make a story.
aggressive about, I don't know. There were some characterizations of like the bad, like the people, like physical attributes or mental attributes about them that I felt like were tackily placed. Tackily? That's not the right word. But I felt
in a tacky way.
Yeah, it just kind of felt like, boy, if a woman doesn't have big breasts, of course she's a villain. If a guy has a lips, don't trust him.
Oh, I see what you mean.
It just kind of like these like they were villains that were then described in these ways. Like, okay, I guess. All right.
Yeah.
What are you saying here, King?
Right.
It's strange because, and then everybody
That's
who's sexy and well spoken is the good person.
Right.
I guess it's just a weird
cliche.
read.
I mean, it's cliche.
I did not. None of the.
I mean, I feel bad. I wanted to like this book. You know?
None of the people in the Institute who were doing who were the bad guys were interesting or had any depth to them whatsoever.
I don't think the kids were interesting either.
No.
Like Avery,
Not really.
who they kept calling the Avester, which
The
was
Avester,
making me insane.
After reading this, I can't read another book where he writes kids.
Yeah,
So
that's fair. That's fair. I really think that, unfortunately, I think this book is not worth the time.
it's
to
weird
read it.
because he almost. I guess there's kind of like that kind of crowd pleasing ending where like the kids use their psychic powers to do stuff.
Kind of.
But it still didn't seem enough. I felt like the villains did not get punished enough by it.
yeah. I also
I want to see people like slowly explode.
yeah.
So
I also feel like it's like in the era of Stranger Things when you have
that's the thing. You could watch Stranger Things.
It's just like this is not. It's there's no place for this. I guess there's so many other things that would be better.
Yeah.
So I feel like we've been.
I just do not understand. Like, I mean this. I don't understand how Stephen King, who admits that he writes slower than he used to, how this is what he wants to spend his time with. And the man must be rich. He doesn't need the cash, so he's doing it because he likes to do it. Did he like writing this?
I don't know. I haven't read the last couple. I didn't read Sleeping Beauties, and I didn't read.
Anyway,
whatever that one's called, I don't even remember. The Outsider. I
Yeah.
didn't read either of those. All right. Well, listen. I thought so. I'm looking at my shelves here, I've read 22 Stephen King books.
Yeah, I gave this 2 stars
I know you did.
over your 1 star because before you continue on this whole Goodreads thing,
Yes.
there were chunks of it where I realized I had just read 100 pages. But unlike, say, something like when I couldn't put down The Loneliest Girl in the Universe,
Yeah.
it was just like, yes, Stephen King can still write in an easy-to-read way. So now 100 pages are gone.
Yeah.
But, like, in those 100 pages, there was nothing of me like, oh, my gosh, what's going to happen next?
Agreed.
You know, there was no real compelling reason for me to going that. So I gave it 2 stars over your 1 star because I still found it. But, like,
I just wasn't, after the first
Waste of
section,
time.
well, essentially after the prologue, I just wasn't engaged in it ever. So thought I'd just mention a couple of my favorite Stephen King since we've been pretty much trashing this book the whole time. I read 22 Stephen King books.
Oh, wow.
Of those, 3 of them I gave 5 stars. Probably another 5 I gave 4 stars. Then a lot of 3 stars, a couple of 2s, and this is my first 1 star. So my favorite really is Bag of Bones. I think like for a classic spooky Stephen King, Bag of Bones is where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
I think The Shining's also great. I know you don't like it, but I think the Bag of Bones just is scarier and just works everywhere. 11/22/63 is a time travel story in the style of Jack Finney, which was perfect for me. But if you're looking for like a classic Stephen King, I don't think I would go there. But if you're a time travel fan, or history buff interested in the Kennedy assassination or whatever, that is a really well written book. And then I would also mention Finders Keepers, which is the second of the Bill Hodges trilogy. I'm not really a fan of End of Watch or Mr. Mercedes, but this is really a standalone and is just an excellent book. So I think my tip top, if you want to read Stephen King in the classic Stephen King vibe, I would say Bag of Bones or The Shining are the way to go. Do you have one what's your favorite? Salem's Lot, right?
I have read 9.
Okay.
My least favorites have been The Gunslinger, The
I hate The
Institute,
Gunslinger,
and The Dead Zone.
Yeah. Oh, The Dead Zone, yeah. We did a whole episode on The Dead Zone, everybody.
Yeah, my favorite has been Salem's Lot. So, but I also enjoyed Pet Sematary, Gwendy's Button Box, and Carrie.
Mm-hmm.
So
you didn't like Dr. Sleep?
I did, but that was also just too chunky to like. The parts of it I liked were not the majority of the book.
I think if you're interested in getting into Stephen King, you have to read Carrie. I think that's just. I think you have to do that.
Yeah.
Firestarter is interesting. It's not always exciting, which kind of kills it. Needful Things, I think, really doesn't work.
Okay. Yeah. So there.
But there's so many to choose from.
Not a favorite author of mine.
Yep.
All
right. So
Salem's Lot is actually now one of my favorite books.
Yeah.
Period.
Yep.
But I don't know. Next year I'm going to read Christine, so we'll see.
Okay.
So I plan on reading like Christine and Cujo.
I've heard Cujo's too rough. I don't know. Animal stuff always upsets me.
I might be able to get
All right,
through
so
it.
Eric says don't read The Institute, but read Salem's Lot.
Yeah.
I say don't read The Institute, read Bag of Bones. And I think if you want to get into Stephen King, Carrie and The Shining are must-reads. So, all right. I think that's going to do it for this time. Anything else before we close up shop?
Boy, Halloween's over.
That's true.
Ain't it?
A lot of things going up in the auditorium. We've got
Yeah.
Creek Bend Band coming. We've got Judy Cook doing a presentation on ghosts. Plus our regular thing of movies. We got some Christmas book clubs that we're going to be starting in the next couple of weeks. We won't discuss them until December, but I'm going to put the books out now so you can get to reading.
I'm not doing a Christmas book club again.
Yes, you have
No,
to.
I'm not.
You, me, and Bo.
No.
Yes.
No, I had to
We're
read
gonna
that
get Bo
stupid
back on.
Christmas cookie cutter prequel book.
Listen to me. That episode is one of my favorites of this whole podcast.
I cannot do another one of those books.
I will
give me a book about a boy who finds a horse and has to raise him by Christmas time or something.
All right, I can do that. You think I can't? We're talking about episode 175, where Bo Hutchings joined us, and we each read a Christmas cozy mystery. It almost broke Eric.
It was
Bo's
so
was
bad.
about Halloween, and mine was. Real. Sneaky Pie Brown writes a heck of a book. Let me tell you.
When you're maybe waiting for the bus, or maybe you're outside and you're at your car in a parking lot, and you're not even in your car. It's December. It's a gray morning. The parking lot's empty. It's full of slush. And all the buildings, all the stores in this like 6 strip mall area, they're all gone anyways. That's what reading that book was like. It was like just standing there for 2 hours and then being like, why the heck am I here?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
if you want to experience that weird,
So Eric's looking forward to our Christmas book club this year.
Not
All right.
reading a cooking.
That's
a
gonna do
baking
it.
Christmas book
That's
again.
gonna do it for this episode of the All the Book Show. We will see you next week.